I'm heated. I'm so heated that I needed all that water just to cool me down for this video. Y'all will not believe what I just found out. Well, no, I didn't just find this out, but y'all won't believe what I found out shortly after watching Zack Snyder's Justice League. You know what, I'll tell you. So, let's get into it, huh? Oh, by the way, welcome back. And if you're new, welcome to the Lazy Ass Samurai YouTube channel. Also, if you're new, I promise you I'm not that thirsty. I'm not that thirsty. So, you know, after watching Zack Snyder's Justice League, the Snyder Cut, I was happy. I was pleased, satisfied. It was everything I wanted out of the initial release in theaters in 2017, right? I mean, it was really, really good. It was substantially better in many ways. I mean, you already saw my video, I would hope, on the top 5 differences that really, really affected me in a positive way. I mean, I hope you guys saw that video. If not, you might as well skip on over that video real quick before you come back here, because I'll tell you something. So I found out what the SnyderVerse was and what sequels, what would have been the Justice League trilogy from Zack Snyder beyond the point of this movie, beyond the point of his cut. And I've gathered a list here, a little scripty script, talking point list here on what we would have seen. Through interviews with various news outlets, Zack Snyder shared exactly what this was supposed to be. And I'm hurt and upset, frankly, to find out that we were going to get probably the most epic superhero trilogy nearly of all time. Not a saga like that of the Infinity Saga in the MCU. No, we're talking just... I mean, should I even start? I think I should start. Okay. I guess I should start with what was supposed to come out of the timeline between BVS and the end of Justice League. Because it has been some time after Superman died at that point in Zack Snyder's Justice League. And bear with me, some of this stuff's going to come out of left field, but I like that. I enjoy it. So Bruce Wayne and Lois Lane were supposed to have something of a romance going on, apparently, in Superman's untimely demise. In his time that he was no longer with us, these two were supposed to link up and hook up and you know, have a romance. Basically. So, moving onwards from the events of Zack Snyder's Justice League, remember how the Flash thwarted his plans of taking over the world, finding the anti-life equation? Right. But, you see, remember when Darkseid said, you know, gather the parademons, we're about to go pull up on Earth ourselves. Well, this was supposed to... Wow. Didn't know water just enabled me incapable of speaking. But this is what was supposed to come out of that after this. This was going to be the Justice League 2. We're on Justice League 2. This is the sequel. And this is gathered from different interviews, different sources, New York Times, Insider, Vanity Fair, all these different sources and sites that I've been looking into. And I just felt I needed to speak on what would have been, what could have been, and what should have been in Zack Snyder's SnyderVerse. So, as I go down the list, this is what was to come after the Snyder Cut. If not for Joss Whedon's mess of a movie becoming canon. Sorry. First, Darkseid would come to Earth, as promised. He'd run into Lex Luthor, who already had a massive amount of knowledge gained from the Mother Boxes at the end of BVS. He knows of Darkseid, he knows of all these things. He would have revealed Superman's true kryptonite, thus being Lois Lane. Then, during this big fight, Superman tells Bruce himself, he's like, hey, I need you to protect Lois while I go fight Darkseid, because I'm apparently the only person capable of doing such things. This is all just how I envisioned it. Of course, it would probably be in a more serious sense or tone. So, as Superman's fighting Darkseid, Batman ends up distracted. Batman and Lois Lane get in a bit of an argument. Because remember, they have this flame that was supposed to have been going on while Superman was gone since BVS, right? They were supposed to have this romance. So they got into it. Batman got distracted and he fails to protect Lois. She dies. This, as you can imagine, Superman being the ultimate superpowered simp for this woman who's about as bland as a slice of bread. I'm sorry. I have nothing against Amy Adams as an actress. It's just the character of Lois Lane in these DCEU films is just so bland. And she's only there to motivate Superman. And I would know because I'm a simp myself. So as a fellow simp who doesn't have superpowers, I'm just saying there are better women in the world for Superman to be all over. Anyways, Superman, as you can imagine, is brokenhearted at this point, and he succumbs to the anti-life equation. Now, this was hinted in the Snyder Cut, where Steppenwolf said, "Oh my God, Ayo Darkseid, the anti-life equation is here on this planet." So Darkseid's already planning, like, okay, after you help me terraform it, I'll pull up. You can come home, but I'll pull up and get the anti-life equation. Well, as Darkseid comes to Earth in this invasion, he gains the anti-life equation and starts taking over people's minds. Hence, this what brings us into the epilogue, where it was this nightmare world. Or even the nightmare that Batman had, where he had a gun in BVS. Also from this nightmare world. So, Superman, he's brokenhearted, he succumbs to the anti-life equation. And then Justice League 2 would have ended with, like I said, the epilogue scene from the Snyder Cut. It would have came full circle in that sense, where we have this ragtag group of heroes and or villains working together to try and find... Well, the goal is to retrieve a mother box from a destroyed cathedral and to take it back to the Batcave to power up the cosmic treadmill. I know, all these things from the comics that we literally probably won't see for quite some time in a live action context. So we have, if I recall correctly, it was Cyborg, Mira, Deathstroke, The Flash, Batman, and then Joker teams up with them as well. And they're on this perilous journey to try to get the mother box so they can have the Flash go back in time as he did in BVS. I'm telling you, it's a shame that this isn't canon because it makes more sense if it's canon, where the Flash goes back in BVS and warns Batman that Lois is the key. That's the whole point of that, okay? Now stay with me now. Man, it's just so painful. So anyways, like I said, yes, it would have ended with the epilogue scene. They're trying to find the mother box so that way Cyborg can then use it to power the cosmic treadmill, thus sending Flash back in time. Because at this point in this nightmare world, if you recall in the Snyder Cut, Cyborg gets a vision as he's resurrecting Superman, right? And the Flash kind of brings that about, and he sees Wonder Woman die, he sees everyone die, he sees Superman succumbing to the anti-life. The corpse that he's holding, the skeleton that he's holding in that flashback is Lois' skeleton. And that's when Darkseid pulls up, puts his hand on his shoulder, he's like, there, boy. Now succumb to this anti-life real quick. And then, Superman helps enslave humanity. Aquaman's dead, Wonder Woman's dead, various other characters are dead up to this point. So those left in the nightmare sequence are said to be the last ones alive. This ragtag team who was supposed to go forth and help get Flash running on that little treadmill, that cosmic treadmill, go back in time long enough just to warn Bruce. From there, Bruce realizes that he has to sacrifice himself for Lois after the Flash warns him. He realizes, dang, in this moment that Superman told me to protect her, I really need to just throw myself in front of her. However, she died. So everything after this, after the Flash warns Bruce and BVS, the events unfold, and then when the moment comes, Batman then sacrifices himself for Lois Lane. And nothing from the nightmare world happens. Like everything, the I have an issue with this word and English in general. Everything from the post-apocalyptic world is no longer valid. It just doesn't happen. It ceases to happen. It's not continuity at this point. So that is pretty much where the sequel of Justice League would end, with that nightmare world becoming a reality. And the whole goal of that film was to take us through the events and then, of course, have them go back in time and warn Bruce so then that way he does the right thing, which is cool, right? So then we move on to the third movie in Zack Snyder's Justice League trilogy, in the SnyderVerse trilogy. The final movie, Justice League 3, would have Aquaman. It would be Remember that flashback to when Darkseid first pulled up on Earth and the forces of everyone took him down? Yeah, it would be like that, but in a modern age. So you would have Aquaman leading the Atlanteans. We would have Diana leading the Themyscirans. And then we would have Superman and Flash leading the forces of Earth, which would be the heroes. We're talking Cyborg, Deathstroke, anyone who was left, ideally Green Lantern, and as well as the military. We'd have special forces. We would have the military pulling up to this battle against Darkseid and his parademons. And it would all come, like I said, it would all come full circle, again, similar to that flashback, and it would have included Darkseid losing again. Even with the anti-life, although I wonder if he would have gotten the anti-life? I don't know. I'm sorry. So, from there, that's how it would end. The whole third movie was going to be this huge battle. The movie itself would have been the battle. I mean, of course, I'm sure there'd be a little more backstory as to how everything's okay and how the Nightmare World didn't come to fruition. We probably get a long, drawn-out intro. We probably get a little bit of strategizing here and there. Maybe some clashing of heads. Maybe we'd have certain characters pop up. Maybe even Jared Leto's Joker would pull up and be like, hey, I want my stake in this fight. So you can imagine this would have been a really great third movie. And then from there, after Darkseid loses yet again, Batman is dead. There are a lot of casualties at this point, but none of anyone who died in the Nightmare sequence would be dead. Batman seems to be the most pointed to death. Now, then this was something that this next part, the end of Justice League 3, would be a callback to a brief blink and you'll miss it moment. Well, maybe not blink, because the camera did pan over it for a while. In the talk that Martha had with Lois Lane in Zack Snyder's Justice League, we see her go into her drawer, her nightstand drawer, pull out her name badge from the Daily Bugle. Yeah, it's cool. She's inspired to go back. I said Daily Bugle, didn't I? Daily Planet. I did this in my last video too. Y'all gonna have to excuse me on that. Wow. Anyways, she's motivated to get back and going back to being a reporter at the Daily Planet. But when she opens that nightstand, it's easy to miss it, because I missed it the first time, I'm not gonna lie. You see a pregnancy test and you're like, okay, but is that Bruce's baby? No, it's not Bruce's kid. This is apparently she was impregnated while Superman was alive. Zack Snyder had even made a callback toward the bathtub scene in BVS. You know, they had a moment there, so of course that could have been it too. Long story short, it leads to them having a powerless son. This son isn't Kryptonian, like in the comics where Superman's kid is Kryptonian, or even like Superboy Prime. My hair's wet, I'm sorry. And they would have named him Bruce after Batman sacrifice. In honor of Batman sacrificing himself for Lois, they would have named him Bruce. So he was Bruce Kent, born a powerless kid. Following that, on the anniversary of Batman's sacrifice, 20 years after the events of this sacrifice, 20 years after the events of the Darkseid War, Superman and Lois would take Bruce Kent to the Batcave. And that is when they would say that your Uncle Bruce would have been proud of you taking this mantle. So, with that, Bruce Kent would have taken up the Batman mantle for his Uncle Bruce. That would have been the ending of Zack Snyder's Justice League trilogy. See, I did more research into that than I did the following Batman and Flash spinoffs, mainly because this is what came to me, because if you haven't played the game, but I'm sure you have, but if not, there's a video game that came out called Injustice: Gods Among Us. A superhero fighting game from NetherRealm Studios, the same creators of Mortal Kombat. And there's also Injustice 2. But most importantly, Injustice 1 had a similar plot structure where Lois dies and Superman snaps. Mainly it was because, I should do a video on this, but just like a TLDR, Joker actually tricks Superman into killing Lois thinking she's Darkseid. He not only kills Lois though, he also kills their unborn child, which then causes Superman to kind of go crazy. He murders the Joker and goes on to lead a regime under his rule, because he just goes crazy and he's just like, nah, I'm not having this. I ain't having it no more. So then, hence the events of Injustice 1 and or 2 happen. And see, that was also interesting to me because it was a very similar plot to this. This is what I thought of. Once I found out this Nightmare World would have came about due to Lois's death, well, not really, because Darkseid would have been there But Superman succumbing to the anti-life was because of Lois dying. And it was just it gave me very Injustice vibes. And I was like, that is so cool. I would love to see that live action on the big screen. It's just, the whole point of this video is to get it out, because not everybody would know, right? I mean, diehard fans would know. I mean, the hashtag restore the SnyderVerse tweet has been making its rounds, similar to release the Ayer cut or release the Snyder cut. And I just don't know, because I've heard rumblings from WB executives saying that they're not budging. They're not budging. I mean, I'm thinking at the very least that they could do, they don't have to make this canon, but this could be like an Elseworld story in the vein of the DCEU, right? Because you see it in comics all the time, similar to Marvel's What If series or even DC's very own Elseworld stories, where you got like Red Sun Superman. Like, what if Superman landed in Russia and he was just a Soviet beast? Or what if Batman was a Green Lantern? Or even Flashpoint. The Flashpoint paradox introduced us to a universe where Barry saved his mom, and somehow that attributed to just a whole lot. There's just a huge butterfly effect. So if anything, if in the very least, I would hope that the Snyderverse, this trilogy could be fully realized at the very most as an Elseworld sort of deal once the DCEU starts picking up its popularity. I mean, the Suicide Squad, Gunn's Suicide Squad movie is going to be coming out, and that's going to be drawing a lot of attention and popularity. I haven't seen Shazam, but I know people like that. The Flash's solo movie's coming out. Pattinson's Batman movie's going to be coming out after, unfortunately, Ben Affleck stepped down from his standalone film, which would have seen him going against Deathstroke. I'm about to get a Deathstroke just thinking about all the missed opportunities. Like, just, at the very most, make it an Elseworlds thing, DC, Warner Brothers, whoever's in charge. I know they aren't watching or listening, but I'm sure I'm speaking for a lot of my fellow comic fans saying that this, what I just read off, would have been phenomenal. And then in the same vein, at the very most, an Elseworlds live action sort of thing. At the very least, scrap it and turn it into a DC animated film. I mean, DC is killing it in the animation department. What they lack for in their live action sort of fare is what they're making up for in their animated films. They're still releasing them to this day. I mean, they just announced the voice cast for part 1 of Batman's Long Halloween story, which is going to be adapted, which is dope, which I'll do another video on that, which I probably should, because DC animated movies slap. I'm sorry. Those are some of the best comic adaptations we get. And after Marvel kind of fell out of that, I mean, they have the live action scene. The MCU's got that going for them. They've got their Disney Plus shows. They've got that. Okay? And until DC proves otherwise, Marvel will be the reigning champion of live action comic book adaptations. I can accept that. But if they could just keep this going in like an animated sense, I would be fine with that too. Because the Flashpoint paradox was and probably is one of my favorite DC animated films, next to like Ninja Batman and stuff like that, or Batman Ninja. So that was the point of this video. I don't know if I made that clear. I kind of went on a tangent, but that is what could have been, should have been, and would have been the following Justice League sequels, as according to Zack Snyder, and again, various different interviews and sources. Also, I wanted to make this one little point because I mentioned it briefly in my last video. I would like to argue that it is not truly a whole Justice League without the inclusion of either Jon Stewart, Hal Jordan, or even Kyle Rayner, or even 2 of the newer Lanterns that were introduced. I would like to argue that the Justice League is not the Justice League without Green Lantern. And the fact that WB is the reason that Green Lantern was not in Zack Snyder's Justice League makes me upset. Put Green Lantern on the screen. Give me a live action Green Lantern, you cowards. I'm sorry. He was like my very first DC superhero, my favorite DC superhero. And it's just, I mean, yes, we saw a Green Lantern go up against Darkseid and ultimately get his stuff wrecked in the Snyder Cut. But it's just, Jon Stewart was going to be in this film. Zack Snyder said also in an interview that Jon Stewart was going to be in this film as a Green Lantern. Instead of Martian Manhunter, Jon Stewart would have been in place of him. And the same general who turned out to be Martian Manhunter in disguise was going to be the DCEU's Jon Stewart. I would have been fine with that. Even if he got the minuscule amount of time. Even though I didn't see him sling that ring back and forth. I would have been fine seeing him in this film. But the studio was like, no, we already have plans for Jon Stewart and all the rest of the Green Lantern Corps in our HBO show where it's going to be about the Green Lantern Corps. It was announced years ago, and I'm looking forward to it, but there hasn't been much buzz around it from what I've been looking into. And I'm just tired of waiting, because the only live action adaptation of Green Lantern we have, aside from the brief cameo in the Justice League films, is Ryan Reynolds' Green Lantern film, which I praised to hell and high water before I realized how dookie it was. I was just happy to see it in live action, but the CG suit I don't even want to talk about that. But it's just, that was just a side note. Is just Green Lantern was going to be in the Snyder Cut, but the studio said no. But thankfully, Zack Snyder at least fought for Martian Manhunter to be in there. So I got my green-black representation in my DC film, so I'm fine with that. But this is coming to a close. Although this was such a big missed opportunity, everything I read off here literally keeps me up at night just thinking of the possibilities and how that would have looked. I'm so grateful for the Snyder Cut of the Justice League. At the end of the day, that is really the whole point of this video and of this series of videos I've been putting out this month. Is just, we were blessed to have seen this man's vision come to fruition on screen. And I will never discredit the film because I can't see what could have been in sequels. There have been plenty of scrapped and canned projects. There have been plenty of things that never continued. And I'm used to it at this point. Unfortunately, I am. That's just the way it is. Things get scrapped all the time. Studios and executives and producers and directors. It is a very messy world. And it is through that messy world that you can find solace and still be grateful and find gratitude in the fact that we still got Zack Snyder's vision. I mean, we've been begging with retweets, hashtags, and billboards for years now, and we actually got it. We actually can say, I can actually stop this video, boot up HBO Max, and watch one of 2 releases of Zack Snyder's True Vision. So I really can't, beggars can't be choosers. I mean, we got what we asked for. We won. We got what we asked for. It was the Snyder Cut, and I feel like that alone should be grounds for celebration. So that was it. That was the video. This is the culmination of my Snyder Cut trilogy of YouTube videos, coming down to this one moment where I can say, I'm just glad I'm alive in a time when it came out. And even though we may or may not see the SnyderVerse come to the big screen, at least he shared with us his vision, even beyond the film, in these interviews, so I could still make this video. All the speculation still leaves me excited to this day. And the bottom line of it all is, like I said, we can fuss and be mad all we want, but I'm still pretty psyched that we have the Snyder Cut for years to come. And you best believe, you bet your bottom dollar, if it gets a home video release, which I'm sure it will, I will definitely be partaking in it. So thank you guys for tuning in. Be sure to like and subscribe. If at any point in this video, alright, let's be real. If you made it this far into this video, you can give it a like rating or subscribe. Or if there was a part in this video that you felt for, at least giving a like rating would really mean the world to me. And yeah, so I will thank you guys again for joining me and Bat Bear here for this talk on the Snyder Cut, and just what a time to be alive for a comic book nerd. So with that, stay safe, stay well, stay healthy, and most importantly, above all else, if you're new, you probably don't know what to say, and even if you're not new, I probably haven't said that much, but stay lazy. That's the whole point. I'm just trying to say stay lazy. I'll catch you guys next time.